Well, it's been an absurdly long time since we've paid a visit to our Mad Comics number 4. Now, we got a little bit of a preview of it at the end of last year, and then I went on holidays, and now it's time to get to work. Now, we haven't done a big project like this since we did the PEP Comics, which I just wrapped up. So we're going to go ahead and take a closer look at this. Now, this was the precursor, or a precursor to what we now know as Mad Magazine. Now, this book is extremely brittle. It's been torn through the cover almost all the way through. We have multiple little pieces here. A few little dangling pieces, and the cover looks pretty nice. It's got a nice gloss to it, but it's in multiple pieces. So what we're going to do today is we're going to try to sort out the puzzle pieces and see where everything goes. So the first thing we're going to do is actually do a cleaning on this. I want to take and just de-acidify. This will also introduce moisture into the paper again and make it a little bit more pliable. So we'll get that done, and I'm going to use the same method we've used in the past. So I'll go ahead and put a piece of Hollytex over it, but the thing I want to be careful of is all these little teeny pieces. We don't want them to float away or get lost when we drain the fluid out, so I'm going to have to be very, very careful with that. And then once we do that, I'm going to have to lay these things out, and they're going to go onto a clear sheet in the blue light chamber, because I do want to treat even the little pieces so everything is evenly cleaned and evenly color matched when we put it all back together. All right. So that's where we're at for right now. I'll go ahead and start the process, and we'll come back to you. Okay, so what I've got is our calcium hydroxide, and we're going to very gently pour this in. I placed a piece of Hollytex over. We don't want these little pieces to float off, so I'm just going to very gently pour this in here. I'm going to leave some pressure here. So for exactly those reasons, we don't want things to go swimming. There's one that's trying to escape right there. So what I'm doing is, it's a twofold thing that I'm doing here. I'm rehydrating the paper. We're cleaning it in preparation for the next stage. Okay, so normally we would do some agitation. All I'm going to do here in this case is just get the air bubbles out. But again, I do not want to lose any of our little pieces. And some of these pieces may have floated underneath or gotten stuck. That's okay. Once we get everything moving here, we'll be able to get all of that out. So let's get all these air bubbles out. Everything looks really nice here. I'm very happy with what I'm looking at. Now, I know for a fact I don't have all the pieces. You know, like this big piece, I know that goes down here. The chair's going to come together. This piece, I believe, goes over here. This upper corner here is gone. It's just a matter of how I purchased the book. I did purchase the book in this condition. And so I was looking forward to having a nice project, which I think we do have here. So I can already see in this batch that I'm using the calcium hydroxide, it's a 25% calcium hydroxide, with 25% is the pure solution. The other 75% is water. Added to that is a surfactant, which we've used the T100, and then we also have a little bit of hydrogen peroxide. I use 12% hydrogen peroxide. That's not something you're going to find off the shelf, but it is available through Amazon. I buy it in that because I use different quantities and I wanted to have different ratios and strengths. So what you find in the pharmacy is generally no more than 3% solution. So with that, I can use a lot less, and I buy, believe it or not, I buy it by the gallon. But let's see, let's just gently roll this around a little bit, and you can see the pieces starting to float around in the middle. Some of them floated on top of here. This is all okay. It's still underneath the Hollytex. So, all right, let's go ahead and we're going to let this sit for a bit, and I'll come back to it. I'm going to let it. I can see little micro bubbles forming on it, which is great. That means the peroxide is doing its job. The surfactant is also doing its job. It's loosening any dirt that's on there, and it's also impregnating the paper. So I'm happy with way everything's going. So what we're going to do this is going to be a 3-stage deal. The paper has a lot of tannins in it. That's this tan color, this discoloration. We're going to keep that. We're not washing that away. There's a lot of discussion about cleaning and making things, bone white, and we really don't want to do that. It takes away from the natural beauty of the book itself. Is there times when we want it bone white? Absolutely. But you got to remember, this book was put out in the 1950s. They didn't have bone white paper back then. It was a pulp. It was creamy, and so we're going to stick with that theme. And all we really want to do is get any acids out of the book, and any tannins that come loose with it. That's great. But are we going for pure white? Absolutely no. All right, let's go. I'll go ahead and let this sit, and we'll come back, and I'll probably do the other baths off camera, not to waste your time and the camera time. Okay, we're back, and I've already taken the Mad Comic through the de-acidification process. So it was drying right here. We're going to move it to the heat press to pressure dry it, but I just wanted to show you everything looks great. All the little pieces, if you were wondering about those, I have them right here, and I hopefully will not sneeze. So I have a jigsaw puzzle to put back together. These are going to just air dry right here. I will put them someplace where they're protected so we don't lose any of them. But in the meantime, I just wanted to show you this. I'm going to go ahead and take these two pieces up to the heat press, and we're going to dry them under pressure, and they'll be nice and flat, and then we can sit there and start working with them and manipulating the pieces and see where they need to go. Welcome back, everybody. We're back looking at our MAD number 4. I hadn't come back to this book since December of 2023, but it's time to start working on it. So I've went ahead and I've already cleaned all of the wraps. So they're all stacked up right here. Any tear seals that were done, which I don't believe that there were many. There was a few, but they're all completed. We used Japanese paper and wheat paste, or in the case of the wraps, we used methyl cellulose. Now, I did this all off camera. You've seen me do it before, and I didn't want to waste your time putting you through another one. Now, if there is something you would like to see that I omit when I'm making my videos, please direct message me. I'd like to hear from you, and then we'll go ahead and include those in the videos. But as you can see, all the wraps are completed. They've been de-acidified. As I said, any tear seals that needed to be done were done. They've been pressed flat. They've been treated. So these are done and ready to go. So now that takes us to our cover. Now the cover, if you remember, was a disaster. So we have this beautiful cover here for the MAD, and we have the back cover here, and everything's in pieces. We've got this huge tear here that runs, pretty much almost the full length up to about here. We're going to have to go ahead and repair that. We're going to take care of this and rejoin everything up. Now, as I said, this is going to be a puzzle. And here are all my pieces right here. So they're all sitting down here. They're all fitting this little piece in some way, shape, or form. What we're going to do is go ahead and put these back together as best we can, and then we're going to glue everything together and make one page out of it. And you've seen me do this before. It's challenging, and I had somebody ask me why I bothered even doing such a thing to get a purple label. Well, it was not a invalid question. I mean, I do this because I really love putting stuff back together and showing you how it's done. Will it get a purple label? That's always a coin toss. Lately, I've been getting back blue conserved grades, and I have no problem with it. And I've had a person ask me, well, you're not going to get much money for that. And I said, I'm not in this for the money. I'm in this for the joy of preserving these books. And that's what we're doing here. Anyway, I digress, and let's get started. We'll go ahead, and I'm going to set aside the main cover here, and we're going to work on the worst part right here. My plan of action, I want to be very delicate with this so we don't turn it into even more pieces. It is so delicate. So what we're going to do is get this main seal done, put in all of the pieces that fit down here before we start working on the spine, and then reattaching everything. Same thing on this side. So I'm going to videotape it. A lot of it is going to be in a high-speed format. You know what I'm doing. There's no sense in making you suffer through the whole project. All right, so let's get started. Okay, I'll take this down. Now, I've got quite a few of the pieces. Well, I shouldn't say quite a few pieces. We have here, I've figured out where some of these things go. This is a big gap here. I'm missing this section, so we're going to have to live without it. This is a little corner piece right here. We'll get that reinstalled, and of course the bigger pieces we saw here. The tear is, it's significant, and it's what I call an over-under tear. It overlaps in some areas on top and on the bottom, so it's going to have to be slid together fairly precisely. We will be using the Japanese paper, but from the back side. We're going to use white paper on this so it has the best transparency, and just do single layers. Now here, there's all the pieces. This is all I've got to work with. So the blue and the red are obviously from the front cover. The red is from the spine. We're going to try and fit all these pieces in place. This is the one, a little curious about this one. It's got this blue stripe through the middle of it, but I can't find anything on either cover where that matches up to. So hopefully it'll reveal itself as we move along. As promised, here's some high-speed video. Now this tear has an over-under tear to it, so we have to join it sideways very carefully, and of course being that it's wet paper, it's weak paper, so we don't want to tear it any more than I already do. We're using the white Japanese paper. We want the greatest transparency that we can possibly get out of this. So we'll lay that down. I'm just using methyl cellulose in this particular tear, and we just want to go ahead and paint over everything just to get that nice virtually almost transparent finish. Through the treatments of the cleaning of the calcium hydroxide, it did remove a lot of the tannins from the paper, so it did lighten the book quite a bit. So that was my reasoning for doing that versus using the tan Japanese paper. So here we are just working our way down the sides. We always brush outward to brush the fibers into the book. And after that, we're going to go ahead and check everything out. And we're just doing this one tear seal right now because we want to do one thing at a time and not try to do everything at the same time. Now, when we come to it, I'm just going to take the paper towels. We're going to press it down and try to pull up as much of the fluid. The methyl cellulose is thick, and it doesn't stick to the Hollytex. So we soak it up, pull it up, and absorb it into the paper towel. I'll press down with some pressure and wipe it, and that's again pulling the moisture out. After this, we're going to move this wrap over to the heat press, and we're going to dry it under pressure. Now I'll use about 170 degrees for about 10 minutes. I want to make sure that everything looks right. Everything looks good here. So now we want to dry it and just double check everything. We also want to check the color of the Tengoju. And again, the way the tear was, it was an over and under tear. So I apologize for overdubbing this, but we had some microphone malfunctions, so I'm just trying to cover all of that. Okay, we have it back out of the press. Let's take a look at it. We're going to separate the wrap from any loose, well, we're going to separate the Hollytex from any of the glued together pieces. So hopefully nothing is binding or sticking. There we go. First wrap is done, or the first piece is done. Now the glued part is on this side. So this is where we're just going to be very careful, and we're just going to gently go in here and start lifting it with the spatula, kind of sawing away at it. And as I mentioned before, it doesn't stick. So almost through here. Okay, looks like we did pretty well. Looks like I got a little piece, yeah, a little piece of the, that little piece out of the chunk I was trying to get in there to stay. It looks like it did not get a good bind. So we're gonna have to separate that carefully from the Hollytex, which we've done here, and I'll redo that. Okay, so we've got this back together. This is that piece that I was just talking about. It didn't bind very well. So I'm going to go ahead and trim that away, and we'll redo that and get it stuck back down.